Dominic Raab, when he was interviewed by Sophie Ridge on Sunday, laughed that off and said, of course the Prime Minister's not going to be sent to prison. Now, here we are. Here is the House of Lords. Right, so the, let me see, is that Lord Fowler? Yes, Lord Fowler, the one with the peer with the folder he's holding, that's Lord Fowler. He's the Lord Speaker. That's Norman Fowler, former Conservative Cabinet Minister, going back to Margaret Thatcher's day, also Conservative Party chairman at one point. So here we have this very fancy ceremony. They're clad in the ermine, which they only wear the ermine really on special occasions like the Queen's speech and this ceremony here. It looks as though they're waiting for the, I guess, for the Prime Minister. Here we come. Here's the. Looks like here's the procession. So I don't know if we can listen in. We should get some sound here, I hope.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Well, we're relying on the House of Commons feed here. That is, I think that's the new black rod, I think. There's a new black rod, fairly recent. There's no peers sitting on those benches. That side is the opposition side, because of course they're boycotting it. Now,
I believe this is when the Senior Commissioner directs Blackrod to summon the Commons with something like, let the Commons know that the Lords Commissioner...
Yes, I think... There you go, you were right.
I managed to talk over all of it.
Oh yes, there's a few, that's the government bench on the left, look. So there's a few government Tory peers there, not many, has to be said. And you can see, look at the Labour and opposition benches, completely empty. They are boycotting this ceremony.
Okay, so Blackrod will now go...
and probably bang on the door in the way that they do... gosh, she's dragging it out, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she sets off with a doorkeeper and an inspector of police down the corridor, through central lobby into the members' lobby. And that is when the Common Sergeant-at-Arms slams the door in Blackrod's face. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we have to watch. We have to get that. That's the famous part, right?
It is, yes. Isn't it? It's a very thinly attended ceremony, this, isn't it? I mean, there must only be about a dozen or so. Well, prorogation, I can remember this happening on a number of occasions. It normally happens in the middle of the afternoon when there's more people around. So there we have so that is emerging from the House of Lords. There is a Lords lobby as well as a members lobby over in the Commons. So she's just come from the Lords chamber. That, I assume, is our camera in the central lobby. And there it is. It's not very often it happens at this, 17 minutes past 1 in the morning.
I mean, I don't think much happens at 17 past in the morning.
There's a few members of the public there. Look in the central lobby.
Is that? I assume that was journalists, but that is members of the public.
It looks like it. I think that's. They've probably. I imagine they will have been up in the public gallery for the very lively debate. Here we go. Into the Commons chamber now. This is a bit you're looking forward to, Kimberly.
Yes. Seems like everyone else is too.
For all the fury of half an hour ago, there's a lot of laughter there now. Listen out in case Dennis Skinner makes some quip. He often does on these occasions.
Close the door.
Oh.
There we go. They're all laughing, despite being so angry about this.
Oh, there she is.
Yep. Black Rod.
Black Rod is Sarah Clark.
Right.
Appointed in November 2017.
Yeah. New Black Rod.
Hi.
You're all right. Skinner took the night off.
Mr. Speaker, the Lords who are authorised by Her Majesty's Commission to declare her royal assent to acts passed by both houses and to also declare the prorogation of Parliament, desire the presence of this honourable House.
Really? No.
Oh,
It looks like someone's fallen over. What's...
there's an incident near the Speaker's chair there. I don't know whether it's... was it...
Yeah. Let's have a listen and see. Maybe we can ask our producer who's there, if he can find out what's going on.
Looks as though there might have been some sort of altercation just in front of the Speaker's chair there. Right. So is the mace going to be taken off the table? I imagine so.
Treat you and what you have to say with respect, and I recognise that our presence is desired by Her Majesty the Queen's commissioners. They are doing what they believe to be right, and I recognise my role in this matter. Wait a minute. I couldn't care less whether you like it or not. I'm more than happy if people have got the basic tolerance and manners to listen, they'd hear. I'm perfectly happy, as I've advised others, to play my part. But I do want to make the point that this is not a standard or normal prorogation. It is. I don't require any assistance from you, Mr. Stevenson. You wouldn't have the foggiest idea where to start in seeking to counsel me on this important. I require no response from you. I require no response from you. I require no response from you, young man. I require no response from you. Get out, man. You will not be missed. I had already made the point that people have the manners to listen, which they haven't. That order that I will play my part. This is not, however, a normal prorogation. It is not typical. It is not standard. It's one of the longest for decades, and it represents, not just in the minds of many colleagues, but huge numbers of people outside, an act of executive fiat. And therefore, executive fiat, and therefore I quite understand. I've already said that Black Rod I respect, and Black Rod is doing her duty, and the Queen's commissioners are doing their duty, and I will play my part. But I completely understand where it's nothing disorderly. I didn't require advice on order from you, Mr. Stewart. You're a master of disorder, man. I completely understand why very large numbers of members are much more comfortable staying where they are. Mr. Stewart, if you don't like it, you're perfectly entitled to your view. I couldn't give a flying flamingo what your view is. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed.
John, just to jump in there, the Press Association have said that a group of Labour MPs held up signs with silence written on them, with one trying to hold on to the Speaker as MPs were requested to take part in the ceremony, because obviously they're now moved from the Commons to the Lords.
Yes.
And our producer says that in the lobby, no one knows what's going on. They're just very confused.
Well, I thought it looked as though there was some sort of altercation in front of the Speaker's chair. Clearly there was. Now, just watching... Some Labour MPs appear to be going. Most Labour and SNP MPs are boycotting this ceremony. They've obviously... And there's shouts of shame.
Shame on you.
Yes. This is the most, we have never ever seen anything like this at a prorogation. Normally it's a very staid, mild-mannered affair. This is very controversial. The behaviour of the MPs here, we've never seen anything like this at prorogation. And we heard the Speaker there, what was it he called it? An act of executive fiat. I mean, the Speaker, as we know, called prorogation a constitutional outrage when he was still on holiday in Turkey. But the Speaker clearly has sympathy with the Labour MPs and opposition MPs who are protesting. But those MPs who are heading down to the Lords are nearly all, if not all, Conservatives. I thought I saw one or two MPs from the opposition side going. We've got their backs to us. I recognise quite a few Conservative MPs there. But that noise we're hearing probably is the noise from the Commons chamber.
Does the Speaker usually give a speech?
No, not like that. I mean, he's clearly... Did you hear a moment ago he said, I couldn't give a flying flamingo for your views to one MP. I think it was, I can't remember which MP it was now. But he's been shouting at MPs today. Earlier today, he said, like it or lump it to one MP. So there's Mr. Speaker. He's looking pretty cross, actually, isn't he? There's on the left, you just saw that you see the man in the white shirt. I'll shut up now because we're about to get the ceremony.
Okay.
Bercow looks furious.
I thought you were Elizabeth Taylor.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, Her Majesty, not thinking fit to be personally present here at this time, has been pleased to cause a commission to be issued under the Great Seal and thereby given her royal assent to an act which has been agreed upon by both Houses of Parliament, the title whereof is particularly mentioned, and by the said commission has commanded us to declare and notify her royal assent to the said act in the presence of you, the Lords and Commons assembled for that purpose, and has also assigned to us and other Lords directed full power and authority in Her Majesty's name to prorogue this present Parliament, which commission you will now hear read.
Elizabeth II, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of our other realms and territories, Queen, Head of the Commonwealth, Defender of the Faith, to our right trusty and right well-beloved, the Lords spiritual and temporal, and to our trusty and well-beloved, the knights, citizens and burgesses of the House of Commons in this present Parliament assembled, greeting. For as much as in our said Parliament an act has been agreed upon by you, our loving subjects, the Lords spiritual and temporal, and the Commons, the short title of which is set forth in the schedule here too, but the said act is not of force and effect in the law without our royal assent, and forasmuch as we cannot at this time be present in our higher house of our said Parliament, being the accustomed place for giving our royal assent to such acts as have been agreed upon by you, our said subjects, the Lords and Commons, we have therefore caused these our letters patent to be made, and have signed them, and by them do give our royal assent to the said act, willing that the said act shall be of the same strength, force and effect as if we had been personally present in the said higher house, and had publicly and in the presence of you all assented to the same. Commanding also our well-beloved and faithful counsellor, Robert James Buckland, Chancellor of Great Britain, to seal these our letters with the great seal of our realm, and also commanding the most reverend Father in God, our faithful counsellor Justin Portal, Archbishop of Canterbury, Primate of all England and Metropolitan, our well-beloved and faithful counsellors, Robert James Buckland, Chancellor of Great Britain, Peter Norman, Lord Fowler, Lord Speaker, Natalie Jessica, Baroness Evans of Bowes Park, Lord Privy Seal, James Arthur David, Lord Hope of Craighead, or any three or more of them to declare this our royal assent in the said higher house, in the presence of you, the said Lords and Commons, and the Clerk of our Parliaments, to endorse the said act in our name as is requisite, and to record these our letters patent and the said act in manner accustomed. And we do declare that after this our royal assent given and declared, as is aforesaid, then and immediately the said act shall be taken and accepted as a good and perfect act of Parliament and be put in due execution accordingly. And whereas we did lately, for diverse difficult and pressing affairs concerning us, the state and defence of our United Kingdom and Church, ordain this our present Parliament to begin and be holden at our city of Westminster, the 13th day of June in the 66th year of our reign, on which day our said Parliament was begun and holden, and is there now holden, know ye that for certain pressing causes and considerations, us especially moving, we have thought fit to prorogue our said Parliament. We therefore, confiding very much in the fidelity, prudence, and circumspection of you, our commissioners aforesaid, have, by the advice and consent of our council, assigned you, our commissioners, giving to you or any three or more of you, by virtue of these presents, full power and authority in our name to prorogue and continue our present Parliament at our city of Westminster aforesaid, on a day no earlier than Monday the 9th day of September, and no later than Thursday the 12th day of September, until and unto Monday the 14th day of October, there then to be holden. And we command you that you diligently attend the premises and effectually fulfill them in manner aforesaid. We also strictly command all and singular, our archbishops, bishops, lords, baronets, knights, citizens and burgesses, and all others whom it concerns, to meet at our said Parliament by virtue of these presents, that they observe, obey, and assist you in executing the premises as they ought to do. In witness whereof we have caused these our letters to be made patent. Witness ourself at Westminster, the 10th day of September, in the 68th year of our reign, by the Queen herself, signed with her own hand.
In obedience to Her Majesty's commands, and by virtue of the commission which has been now read, we do declare and notify to you, the Lords Spiritual and Temporal and Commons in Parliament assembled, that Her Majesty has given her royal assent to the act in the commission mentioned, and the clerks are required to pass the same in the usual form and words.
Parliamentary Buildings Restoration and Renewal Act.
La Reine le vote.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, we are commanded to deliver to you Her Majesty's speech in Her Majesty's own words. My Lords and members of the House of Commons, my government's legislative programme has laid the foundation for the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union while pursuing wide-ranging domestic reform. Landmark legislation was passed and has now been commenced to repeal the European Communities Act. Other laws are in place to enable the United Kingdom's smooth exit from the European Union, establishing new arrangements on international sanctions, nuclear safeguards, customs, and reciprocal healthcare arrangements. Close to 600 statutory instruments have been made to ensure a functioning statute book following the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union. The stability and strength of the Union that joins England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland has been at the forefront of my government's agenda. Preserving and promoting the social, economic and cultural bonds that unite this nation remains of the utmost importance to my government. My government continues to work to ensure that locally accountable politicians can take decisions in Northern Ireland at the earliest opportunity. It has been an enduring focus of my government to strengthen the economy, to support the creation of jobs, and to generate the tax revenues needed to invest in the National Health Service, schools, and other public services. Improving public finances while keeping taxes low has been a priority for my government. Legislation passed this session has provided 100% relief from business rates for agricultural nurseries, and for a period of 5 years from April 2017, properties used for the purpose of new fibre infrastructure. My government has set out a programme of work to improve productivity and help businesses create high-quality, well-paid jobs across the United Kingdom. In 2019, more than 1 million workers benefited from the largest increase to the national living wage since it was first introduced. My ministers have worked to attract investment in infrastructure to support economic growth. Legislation has been passed to ensure that the United Kingdom remains a world leader in new industries, including electric cars and commercial satellites. My government has continued to support international action against climate change, including implementation of the Paris Agreement. Recognising the need for bold steps to protect the planet, a commitment to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050 was enshrined in law, making the United Kingdom the first major economy to do so. Draft legislation was published, which will establish a new body to ensure the United Kingdom's high environmental standards are maintained and to protect and improve the environment for future generations. My government has legislated to protect animals, including bans on the sale of ivory, puppies and kittens by commercial third parties, and the use of wild animals in travelling circuses in England. Voyeurism offences have been recognised as the crimes that they are, and legislation has been passed to ensure the courts have powers to take swift action to protect children who are identified as at risk of female genital mutilation. In presenting my long-term plan for the National Health Service in England, my government strengthened its commitment to ensuring there is a world-class health system that supports everyone from birth through the challenges that life brings and into old age. My government is committed to ensuring mental health support is available to all who need it and to protecting the fundamental human rights of the most vulnerable in society. Legislation enacted this session will increase access to protections and put in place robust safeguards for those who are deprived of their liberty. In recognition of the need to make renting fairer and more affordable and to promote fairness and transparency in the housing market, legislation has been enacted to reduce costs at the outset of and throughout a tenancy by banning most letting fees paid by tenants in England. My government has taken steps to ensure fairer markets and to protect consumers from unfair practices and financial losses. Legislation has been passed to ensure people have access to free and impartial financial guidance and debt advice, and to introduce a ban on nuisance calls in relation to pensions. Measures have been enacted to reduce insurance costs for motorists by tackling the high number and cost of whiplash claims. The security of the nation and its citizens remains of the highest importance to my government. In this session, legislation has been passed to ensure the police and security services have the powers they need to keep the population safe in the face of evolving threats of terrorism. Legislation passed this session marks a significant step towards my government's commitment to tackle serious violence on the streets of the United Kingdom. Laws are now in place to prevent young people from purchasing dangerous weapons and to prosecute those who possess such items or sell them without imposing rigorous age verification. The defence of the realm remains an utmost priority for my government, which it has supported through investment in our gallant armed forces. As a leading member of the international coalition against Daesh, the United Kingdom played a critical role in the military defeat of Daesh's so-called caliphate in March of this year. While the Middle East continues to suffer from serious conflict, my government has played a leading role in de-escalating regional tensions. My government has also played a key role in international efforts to protect the United Kingdom and its allies from hostile threats, including in response to the chemical weapon attack in Salisbury. As a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, my government has provided political and diplomatic support to peace efforts in Yemen, Libya and Syria, as well as mitigating the human cost of these tragedies through the provision of substantial humanitarian assistance. Prince Philip and I were pleased to welcome Their Majesties King Philippe and Queen Letizia of Spain, and we also welcome King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and the President and First Lady of the United States of America on state visits. Prince Charles and I were delighted to attend a national commemorative event to honour and remember the heroism, courage and sacrifice of the many servicemen and women who participated in the D-Day landings. Members of the House of Commons, I thank you for the provisions which you have made for the work and dignity of the Crown and for the public services. My Lords and members of the House of Commons, I pray that the blessing of Almighty God may rest upon your councils. My Lords and members of the House of Commons, by virtue of Her Majesty's commission, which has been now read, we do, in Her Majesty's name and in obedience to Her Majesty's commands, prorogue this Parliament to Monday, the 14th day of October, to be then here holden, and this Parliament is accordingly prorogued to Monday, the 14th day of October.
So that was Baroness Evans reading Her Majesty's commission. It's just like the Queen's speech, but it basically lists what has happened in this session. Quite a lot happening this morning. Apparently in the Commons, there's a lot of singing going on. They're now going back to the Commons. And our producer, Tom, who's in the central lobby, says that there were protesters in there shouting shame and defend our democracy. And those protesters were escorted out by the police. John, this is just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes. What we should talk about the altercation. We thought there was an altercation in front of the Speaker's chair. Hannah Bardell, the SNP MP for Livingston in Scotland, has tweeted some pictures. What it shows is some Labour MPs. I can see what looks like Dawn Butler, Lloyd Russell Moyle, holding up bits of paper and trying to stop the Speaker. Lloyd Russell Moyle, I can see lunging in front of the Speaker, trying to stop him leaving the chair. And obviously some of the badge messengers, as they're known, the attendants have intervened. And then Mr. Bercow did, in fact, leave the chamber. I'm looking at these pictures now. Other MPs have described the unruly scenes. And yes, the singing. Labour MPs have been singing the red flag, as they did in that famous night in the 70s when Michael Heseltine grabbed the mace. SNP were singing Flower of Scotland, and apparently Welsh Labour MPs then started singing Bread of Heaven. But it's all been very unruly, and I'm sure as the MPs' tweeted pictures become public, a lot of people will think that it's rather unseemly the way some MPs have behaved. So, real controversy here as Parliament is prorogued. A protest by MPs in the House of Commons chamber. Angry words from John Major. From John Bercow, sorry, not John Major, we mentioned him earlier. Yeah. Applause there, look for Mr. Bercow as he comes back.
It's going to be interesting to see if there's a sign on his chair. There was earlier, lots of pictures of it being
You see the two attendants on the right. There's the bald chap with the beard and then the other bald chap. They're the ones who intervened to stop what was going on.
Home here.
I feel much more at home here, sir, Mr. Bercow. Well, I wonder, the Tories might... normally a departing speaker gets a peerage, but...
Who said it was offered?
That's a reference to what I was just talking about, I think.
So then he is going to sit in the clerk's place at the table.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah.
Which is where the chairman of the Ways and Means sits when they're chairing the committee of the whole House.
That's right.
Acquaint the House that the House has been to the House of Peers, where a commission under the Great Seal was read, authorising the royal assent to the following Act. Parliamentary Buildings, brackets, Restoration and Renewal, close brackets, Act 2019. I have further to acquaint the House that the Leader of the House of Lords, one of the Lords Commissioners, delivered Her Majesty's most gracious speech to both Houses of Parliament in pursuance of Her Majesty's command. For greater accuracy, I have obtained a copy and also directed that the terms of the speech be printed in the Journal of this House. Copies are being made available in the Vote Office. The Commission was also for proroguing this present Parliament, and the Leader of the House of Lords said, "My Lords and members of the House of Commons, by virtue of Her Majesty's commission, which has now been read, we do in Her Majesty's name and in obedience to Her Majesty's commands prorogue this Parliament to Monday the 14th day of October, to be then here holden, and this Parliament is accordingly prorogued to Monday the 14th day of October."
Look at the hiding behind the door. Come on in.
See the Labour side's packed there. Mr Corbyn, John McDonnell, other members of the shadow cabinet there, and no Tories in the chamber at the moment.
And they're still holding up those signs of
Yes.
silence.
A lot of noise.
I've never heard John Bercow sound so unanimated, have you?
No, he's got a face like thunder now. When you consider the events that have gone on earlier on today, he made that emotional resignation statement. He's looking round to see if there's any representative of the government, I think. I'm not sure there is. He's calling a clerk, I think. Yes, Labour and SNP. Oh, there are some Conservatives there on the left, but not very many. There were only 14 peers in the chamber for the ceremony in the House of Lords.
There's nothing compulsory about it, but, you know, on these occasions, when prorogation takes place, if colleagues feel like toddling along this side to shake hands until we meet again, they're very welcome to do so. But it does mean shaking my hand, if you can bear that.
Mr Corbyn going towards the Speaker, shaking his hand. Having a word with Mr Speaker, we can't hear what they're saying. I think what's probably going to happen now is that lots of Labour MPs are going to shake the Speaker's hand by the look of it. Pat on the back for Mr Corbyn from Mr Bercow. Nick Brown, the Labour Chief Whip. Ian Blackford, it looks like, next, and then John McDonnell, I think.
And that's it, really, isn't it? Until October the 14th,
Yes.
Monday, October the 14th.
These handshakes are going to go on for a long time. If every Labour MP is going to shake Mr Bercow's hand, that's going to take a while. Quite a chat for Nick Brown, the veteran Labour enforcer, Chief Whip under Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and now Jeremy Corbyn. A pass on the back for Ian Blackford too. This is all. Suddenly, Mr Bercow's a bit more his mood's a bit more convivial. He's shaking hands with these opposition MPs.
Well, he must be absolutely exhausted. It's 10 to 2 in the morning.
Oh, he's got great stamina, as Mr Bercow. Was that a hug for John McDonnell?
It was indeed.
Yes. Well, Tories will be furious about these seats. They will be...
Well, where are they?
Well, I can't see... I don't think I can see any Conservative members. There might be one or two in the chamber, but not very many. I can't see who Mr Bercow's